So I've spent the last 10 years trying to find the perfect financial management system to manage my own business and personal finances. And the one thing that I have noticed is that it doesn't matter which system you try and implement if the one thing that is avoiding the numbers is you. As a qualified financial advisor and a somatic money expert, I can tell you that it has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of financial education. It is a protection response that your body has learned. And when you retrain that response, money stops feeling like a threat. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to guide you through one simple somatic money practice that will prove to your body and your mind that money is safe. And then I'm going to show you how I went from 3 months of avoidance to checking money daily with curiosity, joy, and ease. So this is episode 5 of the Breaking Money Cycles series. In episode number 1, we explored the 3 money zones: receiving, holding, and giving, and how the not enoughness loop around money hijacks all 3 of those zones. Episode 2, we really dived into an embodied practice to start rewiring your nervous system to feel safe with money. Episode 3, we talked about undercharging and how undercharging is actually a financial trauma in disguise and how to heal that trauma. And episode 4, we revealed why you may self-sabotage even when things are going well. And you can grab all of the free resources from this series at themoneypanel.co.uk/breaking money cycles, where you'll find the 3-zone self-assessment that reveals your inherited money blocks in under 10 minutes, plus the exact questions that unlock generational patterns, alongside a guided heart breathing practice that is a scientifically based method that prepares your body and your mind for this money work. And from this episode, I'm going to be adding in a new financial courage checklist that is specifically for today's episode, which is going to help you to dive into 20 low-stake things that you can look at first, starting with just the date of your last bank login and building it up gradually. So here is what I know of why you're maybe watching this right now or listening to this episode right now, is that maybe you are trying to get good with money and you seem to be inconsistent with this work, or there's something just going on that's preventing you from diving into this. And it's normally a feeling of avoiding the actual numbers themselves, right? And once we understand and learn how to work with numbers, everything clicks into place. But it is about, first of all, building the capacity to look at money with empowered decisions, with confidence. So let me tell you a little bit about the summer of 2021, when I financially broke through my financial avoidance pattern. I hadn't looked at my business finances for 3 months, not because I was lazy, but my body and my mind wouldn't allow me to. It was a really interesting time in my business because financially I was doing really, really well. It was one of my most successful years up until that point. And I started telling myself that I don't need to know my numbers, right? I'm doing well. I don't need to track my numbers anymore. And what was interesting is that I knew that I should be tracking my numbers, but yet I was still literally looking at my phone and avoiding it. I didn't want to see the success that I was creating because I was so fearful of what would happen if it didn't continue. And this is very likely what you may be feeling right now as you're listening to this, is that what happens if what I see just reaffirms that I'm bad with money, that I'm terrible with money, or reaffirming that, well, you're doing really well, but it's never going to last. And these are some really common expressions and beliefs that people have around looking at their numbers. And I can honestly tell you, when I felt like that, I started shaming myself. I was like, I teach people this, and yet I'm not looking at my numbers. And I think it just goes to show that there can be resistance around money when you least expect it to. And so what did I do? I stopped trying to force myself to just do it, and instead got really curious to where in my body, where was I experiencing this resistance? Why was it maybe showing up? And for me, it really tapped into this core belief that I was carrying around money at that time, which was more money, more problems, more money, more problems. So my entire mind and nervous system and my body was just doing its job. It was keeping me safe. More money, more problems. So I didn't want to look at my numbers to remind me that more money, more problems. You can see the explanation of that, right? And once I understood that that is how my mind and my body was reacting, I could really work with my nervous system instead of against it. And within 2 weeks, I had used emotional freedom technique, which is a modality that I use. I was tapping away the resistance. And then I caught up on all my bookkeeping, did all my numbers, and actually really enjoyed it because I wasn't fighting myself anymore. And it's also safe for you to do the same. This isn't about developing more discipline or more willpower. It's really about teaching your body and your nervous system that financial awareness can be good and it can be safe for you to look at your numbers. So let's start to talk about, well, how? How do we do this? So remember the money zones exercise I talked about from episode 1. Your receiving zone needs you to actually see what's coming in. Your holding zone needs you to know how much money you're keeping. And then your giving zone needs you to make the conscious choices as to where is that money going to be distributed. So once your body and your mind learn that looking at your money is safe, all 3 of those zones are going to start to function really well together. You can receive with deservedness and openness, you can hold it with confidence, and you can give with clarity. And knowing your numbers is a key part to making sure that all 3 of those zones are healthy. Okay, and building financial courage is a big part of this. And that's what creates the foundation for lasting wealth. And the good news is that your nervous system is so adaptable. You know, it's learned to perhaps avoid numbers, but it can learn to re-engage. So let's talk about this. So how and what does this re-engagement process look like? Well, if you think about the word financial courage, courage isn't just about being fearless. It's about building your capacity to look at your money even when it feels uncomfortable. And it's your body's way of learning that information, even challenging information, even if you're looking at your numbers and thinking they're not quite where I want them to be, that actually can still bring in a lot of power. It can fuel that feeling of, well, this information is telling me something, and that is more powerful rather than powerless when we just ignore it, right? Out of sight, out of mind. So think about it right now. Not knowing your numbers is probably safer for you than knowing. And this is where we want to create this shift. And we're going to do that together. Okay. And I want you, first of all, to actually really imagine how different your life would be if looking at your numbers just became neutral. You know, it just became something that was just so easy to do. Just like checking the weather report on your phone before you go out. You know, it's just information that's going to help you to make better decisions. And what I love about information is, especially in the finance space, right? Money can be quite complicated. It can feel like it's something that's for other people and not for you because maybe you didn't have a lot of financial education growing up. I don't think many people did. But what gets me really excited about this is that you can literally see people going from complete money avoidance to checking their account, every day because they're genuinely curious to that information. And once your nervous system gets to know that information is neutral, then it just becomes a really easy, neutral process, right? So when you develop financial courage, 3 things really get to shift. The first is that information becomes your power. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by your numbers, you get to feel really equipped. You can see patterns. You can start to spot opportunities. You can start to make better decisions. And so you're not operating in darkness. You're, really stepping into that CEO of your financial life. The second thing that changes is that decisions become easier, right? And there's no more of this sort of analysis paralysis or perfectionism loops going on, because you can look at your numbers, it's data, trust what you're telling, trust what it's telling you, and then just move forward, because it's just numbers, right? The reason that you may be feeling shame or guilt or fear around looking at the numbers is what you're making it mean, and what you're making it mean about yourself. So this is the first step that I want you to take, is I want you to write down, what are you making money mean about yourself? Just take a moment to contemplate that question. What do you make money mean about yourself? Because logically, we know that money is just a number, but when we're making it mean something about ourself, our sense of self, our identity, that's when the emotions can come in. That's when the feelings can come in that don't actually feel supportive. And then your whole nervous system is going to try and protect you by continuing to tell you, you can avoid this feeling if you just don't look at your numbers. It makes sense, doesn't it? We don't want you to feel this pain. We don't want you to feel this shame, this blame, this judgment, this fear, this anxiety, this stress. So just don't look at your numbers, and then you won't ever have to feel like that ever again. But the fact is that cycle will continue when we try and avoid the numbers, because really what we're trying to avoid is the emotion that sits behind it. Right? So ask yourself that question. Get curious to, what are you making money mean about yourself? Because the third way that this really can support you is that your relationship with money will completely transform. When you're not avoiding your finances, money stops feeling scary and this like uncontrollable force, and starts feeling like just simply a tool that you're genuinely good at using. And that changes a lot. And so financial courage is probably the most important work that you can do with money. You can have all the financial education in the world, but if you can't look at your numbers, you can't use it, right? You can have a perfect, brilliant business plan, business model in place, but if you're avoiding your profit and loss, you can't optimize it. And you can have amazing earnings potential, but if you won't face your pricing, then you can't realize that pricing. So financial courage is the foundation for everything that we're going to build on today. And it's what allows you to actually implement all the other financial advice that you have received. Your body wants to feel capable. It just needs to learn that looking at your money makes you feel powerful, not powerless. Okay. And just a quick quick comment, I guess, on perfectionism, because I know that some of you are thinking, but I just need the perfect system first, right? Perfectionism isn't about having high standards. It's not about getting things absolutely perfect. Perfectionism often comes in because, again, it's linked to our belief systems that your mind and your body are creating these impossible barriers to protect you from this deeply uncomfortable feeling. And you don't need the perfect budget to start tracking your spending. You don't need the perfect knowledge to make decisions. You don't need the perfect system to look at your numbers. You just need to feel safe to start messy. Who's ready to start messy? Imperfect. Tracking inconsistently at first. Lots of gurus will tell you, track every day and put this financial habit in place every day. And yes, that may become something that you work towards, but in the early days, just do it messy. Because messy action beats imperfect action every single time. And actually, most successful people that I know have pretty simple financial systems. They might go through periods where they're on it and then they're not on it. Right? We all go through seasons and cycles. So it's not about perfection, it's about imperfect engagement. Right? And unlike mindset work where you're trying to think differently, this is a body-based principle. What I'm going to tell you now, what I'm going to share with you, is a body-based way of experiencing money differently. Okay? Who's up for a little bit of that? Right? So let's show your body that it's safe by doing it in a way that doesn't trigger overwhelm, so that your nervous system, can get to re-experience and joy around money, where, it feels good, right, to engage with money again. Okay. So before I share this somatic tool with you, one other thing I want to mention is that when we talk about financial courage, there's a couple of pieces that sort of sit alongside financial courage, and the capacity that you have to look at your numbers without it meaning something about you is one of the most important lessons alongside financial courage. Right, I'm going to say that again because I think it's really important to just let this land. The capacity that you have to look at your numbers without making it mean something about your worth is really important. Okay, this is just information. It's not any judgment on your value as a human being. And the other thing I want you to know about this is that the capacity to make decisions, even with imperfect information, is vital, right? So you don't need to have every single piece of financial information available to you to do this work. Okay? This is just about trusting just whatever's going to come through, right? Whatever is available to you. And then thirdly, the capacity that you have to take action also happens when you're feeling uncomfortable, right? Growth does involve some discomfort. And when you can just remember those three things, I think it helps to keep you really, really grounded in this practice. Okay, so let's move into this somatic money practice. And let's start to build some financial confidence and capacity in your body. So this practice is really about teaching your mind and your body that information, numbers, is not threatening. So we're going to start with a really simple guided heart breathing, and you can access a full guided version of this that you can download and really immerse yourself in at a deeper level by heading to themoneypanel.co.uk/breaking money cycles, and you can download all the resources for this exercise. But I want to walk you through this exercise right now so that we can just start to feel a shift in how you feel about looking at your numbers. Okay, so please don't do this if you're driving. You can actually do this if you're walking. You can obviously do this with your eyes remained open. And this is a lovely practice that I love to do 3 or 4 times a day, or right before I'm just about to dive into my own numbers. I will make sure that my body is feeling strong. I will make sure that I'm using this to regulate my nervous system so that when things do come up, when feelings and judgments, which they often do, come up, that I'm feeling well regulated and ready for this work. Okay, so this is the heart breathing exercise. So just find a really comfortable place to sit if you can, or if you're walking and listening to this, please feel free to join me in this short experience. So I want you just to simply close down your eyes if you can, and just notice your breath. Just notice the temperature of your breath as it comes in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just simply place your left hand onto your chest, over your heart space. And again, just take a moment to notice your breath. Notice the rise of your chest as you take a breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just take a moment to really deeply connect into your heart space. If you are a visual person, you may want to visualize your heart. If you are kinesthetic and quite sensitive in your body, you can feel the heart beating. If you are auditory, you may want to notice any sounds with your breath as you connect into your heart, perhaps your breath slowing a little. And I just want you to notice a time in your life where you felt love, appreciation, or gratitude of yourself. And this may be a time from a few short days ago. It may be a special occasion that you were celebrating, a person that you were with, or even an animal. Maybe you felt deep love and gratitude for your dog as you sat and spent some time with them. And as you bring whatever memory is coming into your mind, into your heart, as you bring that into the body, just really notice any expansion in your body. As you bring in that feeling of love, appreciation, or gratitude. Notice where you feel the body expanding. And just breathe into that part of your body where you feel that expansion. And on the next in-breath and out-breath, as you bring in all of that emotion into the body, I want you to bring a smile into your face and just allow yourself to sit for as long as you wish in that feeling. And feel free to pause this whilst you sit in that space for as long or as short as you wish. And when you have finished that, I want you just to bring in an intention around money. I want you to bring in an intention around looking at your numbers. And if you were doing it from this place of feeling regulated, feeling love, appreciation, and gratitude, how may you choose to observe money and your numbers in this moment? And just notice any resistance that may come up for you here. And just imagine that that resistance is just floating away on a cloud, floating away as the next out-breath comes through. And just tapping back into that love, appreciation, and gratitude. And observing the possibilities that may exist for you with this empowered knowing and knowledge? What is this data, this information that feels very neutral, going to help you to do in terms of making decisions in your business or in your personal finances? And as you contemplate those possibilities, you can just bring your awareness back to your breath as you breathe in through your nose and out through the mouth. And you can begin to open your eyes, bring your attention perhaps back to my face if you're watching this on video, or back into audio if you're listening to this on the podcast. And I really want you to just sit with this place of contemplation, right? This place of awareness, getting financially naked, as I call it in my book. There's a whole chapter in my book around getting financially naked, right? And this is about from this place where your body is feeling regulated, expanded, relaxed, not associating numbers as a threat, but actually just as information. Information. And this is a great place to start. A really great place to start. And I want you just to think about what might be a decision that you could make based on what you see. Maybe it's a small adjustment to your spending, or a pricing change, or a conversation that you need to have. And imagine yourself taking that action and feeling really pleased with yourself that you have made this movement forward, that your body feel what it's like to be someone who looks at their numbers regularly, who makes informed decisions, who trusts themselves to handle whatever comes up. And just really sit with that intention. Now, I have created a little, like a courage plan, I guess, that you could start with. And it might look something like this. So if you're about to go and look at your numbers, do this heart breathing exercise, rewind and listen to that again. And maybe the first day is to set a timer with yourself for 5 minutes. Open your banking app, go into your accounting software and look at it with curiosity. Ask yourself, what's interesting about this? What catches your attention? And celebrate that action with yourself. And then maybe day 2 is look at one piece of information, one balance, one transaction, one number, and say it out loud. This is useful information. And then think of one thing that this tells you that could be helpful, right? Celebrate with yourself. And then day 3 might be looking at 3 pieces of information and seeing if you can spot a pattern or an insight. Just observing, I spend more on weekends than I do during the week. Or my income was higher this month than it was last month. Yeah, just noticing patterns. And again, celebrating. And then maybe the following day is spend 15 minutes with your numbers, get financially naked, look around, get familiar with the landscape. What's interesting, what's surprising you about this information, what's going well, what's something that you want to work on, right? Just noticing from that kind of landscape perspective. And then maybe day 5 is a decision day, looking at that data, making one small decision based on what you have observed. And that might be cancelling some direct debits or adjusting your spending plan just noticing something that you can actually create some action around. And if you want some extra little ideas, I have put together 20 ideas for you in a financial courage checklist. It's simply just like a Google Doc that you can go into. You can grab that at themoneypanel.co.uk/breaking money cycles. And it's just 20 specific things that you can look at that start really small, that build up, and just pick one of those things every day over the next 20 days and start to build that capacity. Remember to use the audio guide alongside that. And then each day this week, after you've engaged with one of those things, just maybe do some journaling around what that's brought up for you. If you're in our wealth resonance container, we have a wealth resonance program that we run that actually teaches you how to use emotional freedom technique to tap away some of the resistance away from the body before we go and do the practical work. So if you're interested in taking that to the next level, come and join us at Wealth Resonance. We have a wait list currently open for our next one running in November 2025, depending on when you're listening to this, or you can just visit the catherinemorgan.com website and find the details of the next course online. Okay, so really honor yourself in this process. Today I've listened to an episode or I've watched this video and I am building financial courage, really just recognizing the progress that you're making, even just by listening to me share these pieces with you. Okay. And remember, there's nothing around money that, having been a financial advisor for over 20 years, having been through cycles of self-sabotage myself, there is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. It's not that there's something wrong with you, right? We have to come from a place of feeling safe to have these conversations with money. And when we can feel safe in our body, then we can work on the mindset and then we can work on some of the practical steps. Okay, so trust yourself. You can do this. I'm behind you every way. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you again next Monday for the next episode in the Breaking Money Cycles series. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next Monday.